Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Monday through Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m. Pacific. Ray Flowers breaks it all down for you from a fantasy sports perspective.
Good morning, one and all. Welcome to the month of March as we get ready for the start of the 2025 Major League Baseball season. It's getting close, folks. You know that, right? Yes. Mere weeks away. And we're here to help you have success in that endeavor. We're here to help you at all times at FantasyGuru.com. We'll talk more about that as we move forward. I am Ray Flowers of FantasyGuru.com. I just mentioned that. Here we go. Monday through Friday, Fantasy Sports Daily is on, powered by FantasyGuru.com. It's a free show. Tell a friend, spread the word, all that kind of stuff. A myriad of ways to watch the show. The main way is with us on YouTube, youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork. If you go to youtube.com/@ElitePlusNetwork, if you go to facebook.com/FantasyGuruHQ, if you go to Twitter X @FantasyGuruSite, any of those three spots, you not only can see the show, that's right, you can see it live, and you can always catch it there on demand. You can also interact. Leave comments, ask questions that we'll address throughout the show. So those three spots, you can do that. Two other ways to listen to the show. Those two other ways don't include video, but you can always go to fantasyguru.com, click that subscribe tab on the top of the page there in the toolbar. You can always type in Fantasy Sports Daily to your podcast network, be it Pandora, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music. Just type in Fantasy Sports Daily, and you should be able to get your fill of the fun that we have at the website. What are we doing today? Well, before we get to the show today, because there is a lot going on today, I will note that today's show is going to be a few minutes shorter than normal. The reason for that is normally the show goes about an hour each day, Monday through Friday. Some days it's 55 minutes, some days it's an hour and 5 minutes. We usually go about an hour. Today we're going to be a few minutes short of that. And the reason for that is I'm actually going to be hosting on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm hosting the GM's Corner with Jim Bowden. So I'm basically finishing this show and jumping right onto SiriusXM. So if you want to hear more of Ray Flowers, if you want to hear some baseball talk, Jim and I will be talking outfielders, we'll be talking catchers. We'll do that on the GM's Corner. Again, that's 1 to 3 Eastern Standard Time on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So you watch this show, then you listen to that show, then you just keep on listening to SiriusXM because Jeff Mans returns from his 1-week vacation. He'll return to the Elite Sports Show. That is 3 to 6 Eastern on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. So here for roughly the next 45 minutes, me for 2 hours with Jim Bowden on the GM's Corner, Jeff Mans for 3 hours, taking you through all the news that he missed last week. And I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about the Deebo Samuel move to the Commanders. Here is the show plan for today. There it is up on the screen. We're going to talk bats and arms, guys switching positions, guys having strong springs, guys dealing with injuries, guys unclear if they're going to be available for opening day. We'll talk through a bunch of players. Corbin, Carroll, Jung, Jose Altuve, Spencer Steer, Bichette, on and on. On the pitching side of things, guys that are looking pretty good, veterans in camp that look pretty good so far. Guys like Robbie and Max Scherzer, Jackson Jobe and Shane Baz. On the other end of things, youngsters that are pitching pretty well. Walker Buehler, Jordan Romano, Garrett Whitlock. We'll kind of run through what's happened. Basically, usually it's the last 24 hours. We'll go the last 48 or so hours here, kind of look at the weekend and hit on some of the top storylines. By the way, as you all know, I have squirrels in my backyard that I feed in the morning. There's a squirrel that is mad dogging me from the fence. The feeder must be empty. They must have eaten all the peanuts because he is staring right at me right now. Hello, squirrel. Hello. Okay. Anyway, back to the show. Before we get to that news and notes too, just a quick update on what should be expected at the website this week, because everyone should know that. We continue to have an updated article or a new article every single day at fantasyguru.com. We started this on January 6th. We're going to keep it going throughout the entire preseason until the regular season starts. Today, we have the updated points league rankings. So for those of you, we had a user say, hey, Ray, I'm starting my draft on Monday. When are the points leagues updates going to come down? Happen today. So perfect timing for that user. Those rankings are updated at fantasyguru.com. Remember, the mixed league rankings are updated as needed, which is usually every day. There's usually some news stories that changes somebody a little bit. The rankings are available at fantasyguru.com. They're part of the package for baseball. The preseason package is actually the full season package. We don't sell just a one-off here in the spring, and then we cut you off when the games start. You get involved with us now at fantasyguru.com. We cover you throughout the entire season. So remember that. Cover you throughout the entire season over at fantasyguru.com. And in so doing, you want to go and click the subscribe tab in the top right corner of the page. Get signed up. You can sign up for the seasonal baseball, the DFS baseball, the wagering baseball. You can get 2 of the 3. Maybe you don't want all 3. Maybe you want 2 of them. Maybe you want all three. Get the all-in package. Get all three of them. You can always send a note to support@fantasyguru.com. Support@fantasyguru.com. Any questions you might have, packages, questions about prices, all that kind of stuff. And remember, we do everything year round. So even like right now, football is still going. Jeff Mann's updated the free agent rankings. And you've heard guys like Russell Clay and Romano Marsaul and Tyler Beaker on this show talk about how they're going to start diving into the prospects for the draft. So you can get the football package right now, the offseason football package. You can always get the MVP plan, which is basically everything besides football and baseball. And as I say all the time, that's NASCAR, PGA, MMA, basketball, hockey, horse racing, all of that's in the MVP plan. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. The next couple of days are really interesting. Hopefully, well, for me, they're interesting. Hopefully, they're interesting for you. There's always the question and the debate about how do you put a team together? There's no one way to do it. You can go pitching early. You can do pitching in the middle rounds. You can do pitching late. There's ways to build a winning team. And a lot of it comes down to your ability to navigate the draft, obviously what the other people in your draft are doing. And then in terms of the long-term success, do the guys stay healthy? And how are you able to work the trade market and the waiver market, right? So there's a lot that goes into this. But there's basically three camps. There's the people that dive in early with starting pitching, saying, I got to get that ace. I got to feel good about that. All right, I can breathe now. They're the people that are more in my camp, which is like, well, I'm going to get some top-end arms, but I don't necessarily need a top 10 arm. If I get 2 or 3 of the guys in the top 25, okay, I'm good. And then there's another group that says, and this is kind of the Jeff Mann's group, all these pitchers stink at staying healthy. No one's going to throw 180 innings this year, so why am I reaching at all? I'm not going to take my first pitcher until the 9th or 10th round, okay? I did a series of articles last year, early pitching, pitching in the middle, pitching late. And I'm going to do that this week again. So I will construct based upon ADP. I will construct 3 teams with each one of those viewpoints, going early pitching, middle pitching, late pitching. And we'll see how the team turns out. And that'll give you hopefully kind of an understanding of, if you follow strategy 1, 2, or 3, how your team could potentially fall out, of course, provided the draft goes along the lines of ADP, and they don't always do that. So we'll be doing that this week. We'll have the draft book updated on Friday. That's been our continuing mantra, updating the draft book each Friday. Then over the weekend, ADP, we're going to have a return to ADP. We had ADP bargains. Was it last week? Yeah, it was last week we had ADP bargains. This week, we have ADP non-bargains. Too costly, according to ADP. So we'll have outfielders and pitchers Saturday and Sunday, and then we'll go to the infielders. Actually, I should probably have done outfielders and infielders. Let me just make that change now on the show. We'll do outfielders and infielders over the weekend, and then we'll do pitchers on Monday next week. So that's kind of where we're at when it comes to the schedule. Okay, let's talk a little bit about what we're here today for. Remember, fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Okay, Jose Altuve, we heard news that Jose Altuve might play some second base this year. I mean, some shortstop this year, right? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Well, yesterday we got the update that not only is he going to play some outfield this year, he's going to be their outfielder. He's going to be their left fielder. Joe Espada, the manager of the team, said that right now the plan is for him to play the majority of games in left field. In the days that he plays second, opens up the door for Yordan Alvarez maybe getting a start in left field, someone getting a DH day. Okay. Again, I'm not really sure what precipitated all this. I don't know why the Astros just didn't sign an outfielder. They did bring in Brandon Rogers. Now, this is great news for Brandon Rogers because it looks like he's going to get a chance to be their everyday second baseman. He'll hit down in the order, of course, but there's that. Altuve, who I have rostered in multiple leagues already. You can find my write-ups for Tout Wars and for Labor over at fantasyguru.com. You can find those write-ups there. 15-team mixed leagues for both of those. Altuve, who should be used at second base because second base is a thin position. Sounds like he's going to pick up outfield eligibility. And it's going to happen quick because he's going to be the primary guy out there. So whether it's 5 games, 10 games, 15 games, 20 games, whatever your league settings are, check them. And give strong consideration to, rostering Jose Altuve, as I have done early in drafts. And, the bonus, again, you want to play him at second base. So this news doesn't push him up draft board substantially or anything like that. But, it's not a bad thing. Maybe you grab Gavin Lux late in the draft and he really, takes off and he's in that lineup every day for the Reds. And, then in the outfield, Luis Robert hurts his knee. Well, now you slide Altuve into the outfield and you put Gavin Lux at second base and you're golden. So it's always a benefit to have 2, if not 3 positions for any player. It's well worth bumping a guy's cost up $1 or even pushing him up potentially a round in the draft. So Altuve has to be considered a 3rd or 4th round pick. 5th round. I mean, I think it depends on your league size, 10-team league, deeper leagues, that kind of thing. But the fact that we're hearing that he will play outfield and have that dual position eligibility, great news for him. And again, I think that Brandon Rogers gets a tick up because it looks like he's got a chance to play every day. We'll see, as I have speculated earlier this preseason, we'll see if the move away from Coors Field helps Rogers' body in the sense that he won't be playing at a mile altitude, which is very difficult on your body to recover and all that. Maybe he can stay a little bit healthier playing closer to sea level. We'll see. So big news there coming out of Houston. San Francisco, this is a storyline that we've talked about, and I do have a player profile planned. The player profile series, by the way, is about ready to start rolling out. Let's see some of the names I have on the player profile list. Those are like the 1,400-word articles on the single player. So we're not just on one paragraph, it's a full article. I've got guys Victor Robles, Xavier Hernandez, Cedadon Rafaela, Tyler Fitzgerald, Joe Adell, Luis Garcia, Jung Lee, who we're going to talk about in a second, Jeffrey Springs, Reynaldo Lopez, Luis Heel, Grayson Rodriguez. We'll talk about all these guys moving forward. Let me make a note here. There we go. Okay. All right. So we'll talk about all these guys in depth moving forward. Jung Lee was supposed to be the Giants' leadoff hitter last season. He was limited because of a shoulder injury. He had surgery. Supposed to be fully fine physically. He had a couple of hits on Sunday afternoon. He's gone 6 for 15, to start off the camp here, and he's looking fully healthy and good to go. The Giants have said he's not going to hit leadoff, though. He's actually going to hit third. And so this is, Lee is ADP, what's it, 250? Let's look up Lee's ADP. It would help if I didn't have it set on pitching. And when I reference ADP, as I always say, I use the NFBC's ADP. As of right now, I'm looking at it since the start of February. It's just too early in the month, March, obviously, to just use March numbers. His ADP is 236. So, he's around. He's outfielder 58. So he's around, but he's not somebody anyone's reaching for, and I get it. But let's not forget that coming over last season, Lee was thought of as a potentially pretty good offensive player. He's a 10 to 15 home run guy, probably a 10 to 15 steal guy, probably. Good approach, could hit 275. So, batting third for the Giants. Not that the Giants are going to have some banging lineup, but, you look at this batting order and, you consider they might go Lamont Wade, who consistently gets a 370 on base percentage. Willie Adames, who they added with that big contract in the offseason. Then Lee, followed by Chapman, Helio Ramos, Mike Yastrzemski, Tyler Fitzgerald. A very traditional last 15-year Giant team in the sense that there's not a lot of superstars on this team, but there's talent, and they'll probably be more productive than we would anticipate. And that'll obviously a lot of that'll hinge on Lee, who's looking at hitting third. Sneaky addition right now, according to ADP. Corbin Carroll has started out very well in spring. We've talked all about him and his struggles in the first half last season and his comeback in the second half last year. He's being drafted routinely in the first round this year. Left the game yesterday with tightness in his lower back. No one at this point in time is nervous, concerned, all that kind of stuff, but you know what it is. When a guy's dealing with something, we always worry about it. The season is long. You don't want to be dealing with something in March because, do you have time to get ready and healthy for the regular season? This could be just a minor thing. He tweaked it and he'll be fine in 2 days. Totally could be that with Corbin Carroll. Keep an eye on it because, back injuries, we've talked about this a lot. I have a back injury I deal with. There's back injuries pop up all the time with players. They're not fun. And, you can stretch through it and do routines and weights. There's things you can do to work through it. And of course, a Major League Baseball player is more inclined to be doing those kind of necessary things than I am, as I sit in a chair all day. But it's, and I guess there's a difference too. I'm almost 6'4", and Corbin Carroll's 5'10", 5'11". There's a little difference there too. But bottom line is that this is likely to be nothing, but we have said that many times before, and it's become something. So keep an eye on things with Corbin Carroll. We did not touch his rankings the last day. I didn't do any updates this morning over at fantasyguru.com. I don't think that's warranted at this point, but we'll keep an eye on it. I noted that earlier that the rankings are updated on a daily basis if necessary, and that's true. The mixed league rankings, NL only rankings, AL only rankings, and auction values for all of those are updated on a daily basis. The draft book is once a week on Fridays. You heard that the points league's been updated. So, I try to get to the other rankings, but if you're really looking for the heart of the rankings page itself is where those are updated on a daily basis or as needed. Sometimes that's 2 times a day. Masyn Winn is a player that you'll notice has been on multiple teams of mine so far in this draft season. Partly because of just the way my team has come together. Partly because I think the skill set here. It's a combination of things. Do I think Masyn Winn goes, ham and is fifth in MVP voting? No. Do I think he's better than he was last season? Yes. Am I intrigued by a potential 15 home run, 30 steal season? Yes. However, the spring has not been good. Okay. He went 0 for 3 with a strikeout on Sunday. He's now 0 for 15. In the grand scheme of things, who cares? It's 15 at-bats. However, and there's still 3 weeks in spring training too, so there's plenty of time here. But we need to keep an eye on this because it's not that Winn's going to be out of the lineup. It's not he's going to get demoted. None of that's going to happen. That would be stunning if that happened. But he might not hit leadoff. He's slated to hit leadoff now. If he starts out like this and maybe hits 7th to start the year, and that would be a significant blow. He could still hit the home runs and steal the bases, obviously, down in the batting order. But that would be a significant blow to his chances of scoring, 85, 90, 95 runs, which he definitely could do batting leadoff for the Cardinals. So that's a storyline to follow. Again, not because the fact that Winn is going to be demoted, not because I'm worried about him losing his starting spot in the lineup, but I am worried about his potential spot in the batting order. We can look at it from a positive perspective. Everyone has an 0 for slump at some point. He's got his out of the way right at the start of camp. I know that may not be remotely anything other than rose-colored glasses and trying to ignore something in a player I've invested in already. But I think it's 50 at-bats, the week of at-bats. These things happen to everybody. Heaven forbid Aaron Judge goes for a slump for a week. It happens. But we'll keep an eye on that because a youngster does have volatility in terms of that batting order position if he keeps to struggle like this. We talked last week, I believe, about the leadoff spot for the Blue Jays. This one's interesting too. They don't really have a leadoff hitter. It probably would have been Spencer Horwitz, but he's now with the Pirates, so they don't have a leadoff hitter, and so they're trying Bo Bichette right now. And Bo Bichette hit a home run on Sunday, had a couple of base hits. 420 feet was the estimate there. That's a pretty good shot. 109 miles an hour. This situation is really tough to gauge with the team from Toronto, the Blue Jays, because they have not yet signed Bo Bichette to an extension. They have not, and apparently won't get a chance even to sign Vladimir Guerrero to an extension. They brought in Anthony Santander. They're looking for a 35-year-old George Springer to rebound. This lineup, it's got pieces. Dalton Varsho's a little power speed. He is what he is, but he's a good defensive player. Andres Gimenez is a 10-15 home run, potentially 30 steal guy. They brought him in. Ernie Clement went 10-10 last season. That's kind of intriguing. But you look at this lineup, they don't have a leadoff guy. So they're trying Bo Bichette right now. Bo Bichette is not a leadoff hitter. Now, you do what you got to do as a team. They don't have somebody with a 360 on base percentage to put in that leadoff spot, Spencer Horwitz. They don't have that guy. I think it's, you look at Bo Bichette, the previous 3 years to last season, which was just a disaster. 343, 333, 339 on base percentage. So let's call him a 335 on base percentage guy. That's okay for a leadoff guy. I mean, it's not good, but it's okay. Now, the question is, will that number be there? Because he's not a guy that walks. His 6% walk rate last year was a 5-year high. So he doesn't walk. The league average is over 8%. He doesn't walk. So that on-base percentage is directly tied to his batting average. In those 3 years where he had the 335 average, he hit 298, 290, and 306. Last year he hit 225. We all think a rebound is coming, but let's say the rebound is the 280. Let's not go all the way to 295. Let's go to 280, which I think is totally fair and doable for Bo Bichette. Then his on-base percentage is 315, 320. Then he's league average. So again, that's kind of where we're at there. It would be obviously great news for Bichette personally if he were to bat leadoff. He'd get extra plate appearances. He'd be hitting in front of Vlad and Santander. Excellent. No pitcher's going to want to face those 3 guys if they're rocking and rolling, of course, either. We'll see. But that's what they're doing now, and that's another one with Bichette. I think they really want Vlad to hit second. They could always move someone up, right? They could put Andres Gimenez first, though he's not an on-base percentage guy. They go Gimenez, Bichette, Vlad, and Santander. They could change it up and go Gimenez, Vlad, Bichette, Santander. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if those 4 guys were the top 4 in the order. But I think the way it looks now, they're thinking Bichette, Vlad, Santander, and then probably Springer batting cleanup. We'll see. We'll continue to follow that storyline closely. Spencer Steer is somebody that we have talked about a lot this preseason. First base eligible, outfield eligible. a guy that I was interested in rostering. His ADP I thought was very reasonable given what I was expecting. 2020 performer, multi-position, all of that. Has a shoulder issue. We know he's got the shoulder issue. We've talked about it. I reluctantly lowered him in the rankings last week a little bit. We've lowered him another bit here. His shoulder, they're still not saying anything like catastrophically wrong, but he did have a cortisone shot. I'm getting a cortisone shot in my shoulder this week, so I'll let you know how that goes. I'm going to be Spencer Steer this week. Spencer Steer has the cortisone shot. That's in essence to relieve swelling and pain, and it's hopefully will open up more mobility, and they'll get a chance to work on some strengthening and that kind of thing. At least that's what we're doing with me. So I assume it's a similar thing with him. And, obviously the cortisone shot doesn't fix a problem. It doesn't heal anything. It just helps reduce that inflammation and gives you the ability to kind of move around a little bit more, maybe strengthen the areas around the weakened area. And I guess that's obviously the hope with Spencer Steer. But there is a legitimate chance now that he's going to start the season on the injured list. They are still not saying catastrophic. They're still not saying he's going to miss months of action. They're not suggesting more surgeries. They're not suggesting any of that right now. But we are, 20 plus days away from opening day for the Reds, and saying he may not be ready for opening day. So that we did lower him again. It's not catastrophic, but he is somebody that clearly right now can be a target of yours based upon cost. I was hosting, and if you missed this and you have SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio on demand on the app, I hosted on Saturday and Sunday the AL only labor auction and the NL only labor auction. So I hosted both the only auctions. And in the case of Spencer Steer in the NL draft, despite being a 2020 guy and despite qualifying at 2 positions, he went for $14, which I think is well worth taking a shot on, right? So the cost piece with Steer is now the determining factor of whether you roster him, because we're all kind of guessing. And again, even the cost point at $14, I mean, if he misses half the season, right? Like if they suddenly next week say, well, we gave him this cortisone shot, it didn't work, we're shutting him down for 4 weeks. Well, so Steer is somebody that you have to be in on. I mean, frankly, you have to be a big fan. And if you're not a big fan, you have to go in a different direction. And it's probably smart to go in a different direction, at least right now, because we just don't know. Now, what does this do to the Reds? We talked about this situation, I think, a lot, too, is the fact that if Steer was unable to play in the field and they were going to have to put him at the DH spot, what does this do to the lineup? Well, now, if he's out of the lineup, that seems to open up a spot in the batting order, potentially for Christian Encarnacion-Strand. Heimer Candelario is their first baseman. They paid him a good deal of money to bring him in. He's one of the few veterans on the team, and he's playing first base. So right or wrong, whether he's a better offensive performer or CS, that's the way that we're hearing the Reds are going to play it, just like they did last year. So Heimer Candelario is in there. So it really comes down to, if the outfield is TJ Friedl, Austin Hayes, and Will Benson, then we have a DH platoon possibly between CES and Jake Fraley. If Austin Hayes is not starting in the outfield, if Will Benson doesn't break camp with the team, I mean, there's a chance he could even be demoted. He's got options left. Then we shift over Jake Fraley to the outfield. Then CES becomes the full-time DH. I'm kind of leaning toward that being the way it might play out. So what the bottom line is right now, Will Benson, who's got the power and speed, Jake Fraley, who's got the power and speed, Christian Encarnacion, that has no speed but all the power, and then there's Austin Hayes, who's kind of he's the most boring guy in the fantasy world, but he's the guy that could see a significant amount of playing time for the Reds. So this is a really muddled situation, even with Spencer Steer being out of the lineup. If Spencer Steer's in the lineup, it's even more confusing. So the bottom line is Steer's situation health-wise has a real trickle-down effect in the entire lineup. We'll have to wait and see what his role is before we can determine what the role of the other players are. Jake Fraley, by the way, Jake Fraley 2 years ago had 15 home runs and 20 steals. Last year he had 20 steals, only had 5 home runs, but he had 20 steals. Neither season did he have 355 at-bats. On base percentage 335 those 2 years. He's basically been Bichette. So not a bad player late in the draft, but again, playing time with him. He's platoon. He's facing lefties in a best-case scenario. The question is, how many at-bats does he get against a righty? Next up, Sal Frelick had a 3-for-3 day on the weekend. He had a home run, 3 runs scored, 3 RBIs, stole a base, did everything. Hit a 360-foot home run. He is somebody we've mentioned previously, just to hit on him again here. as I turn on my device for my SiriusXM hosting job and hope that it works, because I'm going to have to jump from here to there. Yeah, there's a whole separate device. Let me plug it in here as we're talking. I should probably do that to make sure the battery works. I have a headset. Like I normally talk to folks on here and I throw my headphones in. Got the full headset with the mic, yo, that kind of thing. So looks like we're hooked up, so that's good to know. Again, 1 to 3 Eastern, I'm on the GM's Quarter with Jim Bowden. 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, Jeff Mans returns on the Elite Sports Show. We talked a lot about Sal Frelick on this show, and there's a hope. He gained the weight. He gained 20, 25 pounds, trying to make sure that he doesn't wear down like he did last season. He figures to play on a daily basis for the Brewers. His pedigree is a lot more impressive than his results at the major league level. He is a disappointing player from terms of expectations. He is. Could he be somebody that's like a 5th outfielder, the 4th outfielder this year? Absolutely. So Sal Frelick, something to keep in mind. He's not sexy, but you need solid players to win in fantasy. They can't all be Elly De La Cruz. Let's go to the pitching side of things. Remember, fantasyguru.com. Click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send the note to support at fantasyguru.com. Robbie Ray, you look at the drafts that we've done that are posted again for free over at fantasyguru.com for everyone to read. Robbie Ray is on my teams. On Sunday, he gave up 6 strikeouts, or created 6 strikeouts in 3 innings, didn't give up a run. I mean, just 1 base runner allowed, a single to Tim Anderson to lead off the game, and then it was 9 up, 9 down. And Robbie Ray is certainly trending upward. He has that 200 strikeout potential. He's got some of the tightest pants in baseball, which have no bearing. He also has a great ballpark in San Francisco, and it seems like he's fully good to go. Everyone talks about Shane McClanahan coming back from surgery, and there's no restrictions and all that. Robbie Ray's coming back from surgery much the same way, but he already made 7 starts at the end of last season. So I really think that Robbie Ray, I mean, again, you never know with the workload piece. You just don't know. But I think it's fair to say Robbie Ray could throw 150 innings this year. And if he does that, he's getting 175 strikeouts. And his ratios are probably going to be pretty good pitching in San Francisco. So sign me up. I've been rostering him in 15-team mixed leagues as my 4th starting pitcher. I'm in. At that price point, I'm in. And so should you be. Max Scherzer is a more difficult call. Scherzer's 40 years of age plus now. He's dealt with injuries the last couple of seasons. He's obviously breaking down. He gave up a run over 3 2/3 inning on Sunday against the Phillies in spring. Nice to see him go that deep into a game, throw 47 pitches. So that's really good news. Velocity was a little bit down, about 0.8 miles per hour from where it was last year. I don't think we read too much into that at this point. I think him being out there and getting the outs is what counts. I think much like Clayton Kershaw, obviously Kershaw and Scherzer most likely both end up in the Hall of Fame. These guys don't need to have their A++ stuff to get outs. Kershaw and Scherzer both missing a lot of times the last few years, but when they've been out on the field, they've been very effective. And I would anticipate the same scenario for Max Scherzer yet again this season. Obviously, he's in a tough scenario that he's pitching for Toronto. That's not a great division to pitch in. The questions about Scherzer obviously are abound. How many innings is he going to throw? Is it going to be 120 innings? Is it going to be 90 innings? Is it going to be 60 innings? Is he broken? Current ADP is 306, so just outside the top 300. Much like Robbie Ray at that price point, I'm investing in Max Scherzer. And he looked pretty solid yesterday as he continues to get ready for the start of the regular season. Jackson Jobe of the Tigers is a very intriguing figure. And in fact, Jackson Jobe might be the number 1, not just right-handed pitching prospect right now in baseball. He might be the number 1 pitching prospect in baseball. He's certainly in that conversation. And the expectation fully is for Jobe to show up and to have success right off the jump. They're easy parallels drawn to Paul Skeens. Not fair to Jackson Jobe. I wouldn't do that with Jackson Jobe. He's a righty. He's young. He throws gas. I get it, right? Superstar potential. I get it. What Paul Skeens did last year, let's not compare Jackson Jobe to him. I wouldn't. But there are loose parallels that can easily be drawn. In the case of Jobe, there was a thought that, Alex Cobb's going to be in the rotation, and whenever Alex Cobb gets hurt, we got a good chance of seeing Jackson Jobe. So that's potentially in the first half of the season because Cobb can't stay healthy. Well, Alex Cobb's already been hurt. So there's a chance now that Jackson Jobe breaks camp as the 5th starter of the Tigers. Yesterday, 3 innings and 1 ball. He had 3 strikeouts against the Pirates. Throwing 98 miles an hour. He's adding pitches. Last week we put up an article, changes in lineups, changes in swings, changes in pitch mixes. Jobe's in that article with links about him, adding new pitches. there's a lot of intrigue here, folks, because he might be able to break camp with the team. Now, the question then becomes how many innings can he throw? Well, he threw over 160 last year. So, I mean, Jackson Jobe has got to be somebody that, who's somebody whose ADP is rising, because he does seemingly have the ability to, in theory, qualify for the ERA title, throwing those 162 innings. And now he might have the opportunity. So, I'm okay. Let me try that again. I'm having a brain cramp here on a Monday morning at 9:30 Eastern time. I misread the stats. I'm saying it, and I'm thinking to myself, that doesn't sound right. Let me reiterate or restate, better way, not reiterate because I'd be wrong a second time. Restate what I said. He did not throw 160 innings last year. He threw 91 2/3 innings. I made the mistake of reading his total line of innings pitched and his AA line. Okay, that makes more sense. So all told, he threw about 95 innings last year if you add in the minor work with the Tigers. Had a couple of outings out of the bullpen. Sorry about that, folks. So now we're back to a pitcher who has yet to throw 100 innings in a season as a big leaguer, or as a major leaguer, excuse me. He started his career in 2022. So 2022, roughly 77 innings. 2023, roughly 65 innings. Last season, roughly 95 innings. Okay, sorry about that. So we're at 95 innings for him last year, which puts him at 125 innings this year. That puts him in the range of everybody else. And that's the concern that I do have about is if he starts with the team in camp. Even if he pitches well, how long does this go, right? The Tigers mix and match, Foley, Brisky, Holton, Vest. Like, they had all these guys working the ninth inning last year. You've got Kenta Maeda's floating around if they needed something from Kenta Maeda, and they're going to need him at some point, right? You've got Alex Cabo at some point will return for sure. So they've got, in theory, options. So excitement, yes. Moving up draft boards, yes. All of that I said previously is still accurate with him. But just realize that there's a cap here on the workload. Even if they haven't said it's 130 innings, it's 130 innings, right? So no one's going to care if he starts out and he makes 22 excellent starts. No one will care, right? You'll be fine with your ADP and all that. But keep that in mind. And there's always the chance with these youngsters. We didn't see it with Paul Skeens last year because he's throwing 6 innings at 91 pitches consistently, right? There's always a chance with these youngsters that they show up, they have that success, but then in their 14th start, it skipped. And then in their 15th start, they throw 35 pitches, So there's always that plays into this when we're talking youngsters. Another youngster, one who's a little bit more advanced in terms of workload, I think expectations for this season is Shane Baz. He was throwing the ball 97, 98 yesterday. There was a rumor about him hitting 100 on a pitch, whether that's accurate or not in spring. The good news is that's strong velocity for Baz. We've talked about him a lot here on the show. Baz, and written about him over at fantasyguru.com. Baz lost a little bit of his stuff coming back from the elbow surgery. If he is indeed sitting at 98 instead of 96, that's really good news. So that was great to see. He threw 3 shutout innings against the Twins. So whether the velocity was there or not, the results were also there with Shane Baz. He's another one of these players that, to me, is undervalued according to ADP. His ADP has crept inside the top 200, I believe, right? Yeah, it's right outside of it, 204. So it's getting really close to the top 200. But Shane Baz is somebody at that price point that I would invest in. Walker Buehler, another youngster. Walker Buehler, unlike the other 2 guys, though, Walker Buehler's been a star at the major league level. We've talked on and on about him. Talked about him last year over and over again. We've talked about him this year over and over again. No one quite knows where the new Red Sox hurler is going to be. He came back from Tommy John surgery last year, was just a mess. Just wasn't the guy he was previously. That's not rare. That happens with Tommy John surgery. Some guys never recover from Tommy John surgery. That's the real truth as well. Some guys take a little bit more time. Maybe Buehler's in a little bit of more time zone. So Buehler yesterday threw 2 scoreless innings against the Mets. However, the velocity was down a little bit. It's spring. I don't get a good feeling about Walker Buehler. Bobby Miller, his old right-handed mate with the Dodgers. I'm more bullish on Miller, though Miller doesn't have a role, whereas Buehler looks like he's got that role in the starting rotation for the Red Sox. I fear that Buehler goes out there and it's 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings with a 3.95 ERA and a 1.23 WHIP. I don't say I fear that. I feel is a better word. I feel that's like a best case scenario. I feel like a possible scenario is a 4.9 ERA and a 1.33 WHIP. So watch Buehler, the velocity readings, the performance, the word out of camp, all that kind of stuff. But even then, he's just one of those guys that I'm not drafting. He's just on my don't draft list. I don't have a good enough sense of where his expectations should lie. So Jordan Romano allowed 2 earned runs on the weekend on Sunday. He's obviously trying to hold down the 9th inning for the Phillies. That's the hope coming back from his arm injury. He was throwing 95 miles an hour yesterday, which is great. Good to see that. He was throwing 96 last year, though, so it's a little down. Not overly concerned by a mile an hour at this point in camp. The biggest key for Romano is health. Again, he'll have the opportunity to lead this Phillies team in saves. And given his history physically, given where he's at right now, he might lead the team in saves, and it might be 21, right? Hopefully it's 31, but it might be 21, it might be 15, it might be 9, it might be 3. He's another one of these guys like Walker Buehler that's kind of all over the place. The difference with Romano is that there's only so many guys that get saved. So Romano we take a chance on. Buehler just kind of falls into the mix of other starting pitchers. Good start for Romano health-wise. We'll see how the velocity goes if it climbs up as we move along here in camp. Speaking of bullpens, let's talk about the Red Sox bullpen for a second. Garrett Whitlock will 100%, according to Alex Cora, the manager of the Red Sox, Garrett Whitlock will 100% be part of the team's opening day roster. That's not a surprise at all if Whitlock's healthy. Now, he hasn't done anything yet in camp. He's coming back from the internal brace, which is the option. It's not Tommy John surgery. It's the other type of surgery you can have on your elbow. It's got a shorter recovery. Not everyone's a candidate for it, so that's why everyone doesn't use it. But it sounds like the Red Sox, are fully expecting Garrett Whitlock to be ready on opening day. Garrett Whitlock is a very good pitcher. Garrett Whitlock, by the way, the breakout pitcher of your article is up over at fantasyguru.com. Garrett Whitlock has been on that list in previous years. Garrett Whitlock has been really good as a Major League Baseball player, and he's been excellent as a reliever. Sounds like they're just going to put him in the bullpen and let that be his thing moving forward. Though the Red Sox obviously have Liam Hendriks, who was throwing 96 over the weekend, and Matt Chapman, and Mr. Slayton. There's a chance that Whitlock works his way into one of these high leverage setup roles where he wins 4 or 5 games, gets 4 or 5, saves, has 61 strikeouts in 57 innings with a 1.02 whip, right? Like there's a chance he's very effective this season. So AL only leagues, I think we're all in there. In a mixed league scenario, we can't. At this point we can't. But it's not like Chapman or Slayton or Hendricks is locking down the 9th inning right now, right? The hope is, obviously, Hendricks will be the number 1 guy in the bullpen. He'll work the 9th inning. Slayton, Chapman, and Whitlock will work the 7th and 8th innings. That's the hope. Now, there's also a path here where Hendricks and Chapman, veteran players, maybe they don't want to keep them out of the lineup on a daily basis, right? Don't want to throw them back-to-backs. One's a lefty, one's a righty. They both throw really hard. Whitlock's more of a get it down on the ground kind of guy. Maybe they mix and match. So again, I think that there's a path to a very productive season for Garrett Whitlock, and there's always a chance. And they're telling me there's a chance. There's always a chance he leads the Red Sox in saves. I'm not betting on that. I wouldn't put money on that at all. But there's a chance. So Whitlock in an AL-only league, I'm in. In a mixed league, he goes on the watch list because he could be a very effective setup man for the Red Sox, and I would not be one bit surprised if that was indeed the case. Before we close things down here on the show, I'm just checking to see if there's any news here. And again, why am I closing things down here on the show early? I'm going over to SiriusXM right now. I'm starting in 20 minutes on the GM's Corner. I'm hosting that with Jim Bowden, the former general manager. We're on 1 to 3 Eastern time on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio. That's channel 87. Jeff Mans is on right after that in his return from his week off last week. He'll be on from 3 to 6. So hopefully you're enjoying this show here. You'll just transition over to Sirius and listen to my show for 2 hours and then listen to Jeff's show for 3 hours. We got to cover for 6 hours today here with fantasyguru.com. You can always go to FG, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner. Send that note in to support@fantasyguru.com, support@fantasyguru.com. There are a couple of news and notes items here that we have to discuss as I'm pulling out my pad of paper. But you know how this goes. Whenever you're busy, that's always when more stuff happens, right? It's never when you have free time, nothing ever happens, right? Sean Murphy's going to miss 4 to 6 weeks with a cracked rib. So he's basically out for the month of April, it sounds like. Drake Baldwin, who's a very good offensive prospect, is going to be flying up draft boards, and Mr. Murphy is going to be shooting down draft boards. That's a significant change. Murphy was one of those players that I personally felt was a good addition this season. He was being a little undervalued. Let's look at the ADP right here at the catcher spot. So again, 4 to 6 weeks to crack rib for Sean Murphy. Murphy was going off the board according to the ADP. If I could figure out how to do this, according to the ADP for the month of, since the month of February began, pick 204. He was catcher 15. Okay. Now let's go for Drake Baldwin. Let's go down and down. Because remember, Travis Arnaud is now with the Angels. Drake, where are you at, Drake? Oh my gosh, it's even on this list. How far down? Drake Baldwin was 45 at catcher, which means he wasn't being drafted. His ADP was 630. So Drake Baldwin now becomes somebody that is of extreme importance to start the year. He is somebody that we could consider rostering in 2 catcher leagues, especially because he's likely to see a good bit of the playing time. I don't know if he's universally regarded as the #1 prospect with the Braves, but there are sources that have him as the #1 prospect in the organization. He's almost 24 years old. He turns 24 day after opening day this year. Look at his performance last season at the minor league level: 276, 15 home runs, 88 runs driven in. Doesn't strike out much, had a 17% strikeout rate, and has always controlled the strike zone. Last year, a 13% walk rate, which is excellent. His career on base percentage, I don't know what it is, 385, 90 in the minors. Like, it's tremendous. So Baldwin is shooting up. Sean Murphy shares if you have them. You might as well run and grab Drake Baldwin right now if you have that opportunity to do that. Jordan Westburg is participating in baseball activities fully. He's coming back from that back injury. Really good news there. So it looks like Westburg should be fine for opening day if he keeps going on this path. Felix Bautista's got an elbow injury that he's coming back from, the Tommy John surgery. We know that. He's actually going to pitch today, so maybe we'll get an update and a chance to talk about him tomorrow. Still being drafted as if everything's fine. People are really still very bullish on him, even though he hasn't pitched in a year. Felix Bautista, let's see how he does today. Gunnar Henderson is feeling a lot better. He's had that side issue he's been dealing with. He's feeling a lot better. So sounds like his issue is minor. Let's hope, as we discussed earlier, that's the same situation with Corbin Carroll. Hopefully his situation with his back is very minor. Okay, so we're going to shut things down here a little bit early. We'll be back in tomorrow, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. For Fantasy Sports Daily. I'm Ray Flowers. You can find me Twitter, X, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, all of those places at the Ray Flowers. Head over to FG, click that subscribe tab in the top right corner, get signed up. Tune into SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Me and Jim Bowden do the GM's Corner, talking a lot about the outfield. We're talking catchers too, interestingly enough. So we'll obviously hit on that storyline today with Sean Murphy. And then from 3 to 6 Eastern, the Elite Sports Show with Jeff Mans, as Jeff returns from vacation. Always good. Don't forget, go to fantasyguru.com, sign up for the baseball product. It's really good. By the way, John G says, about a month till Ray tells us to be patient and not off guys we drafted in the middle rounds. It should be a national holiday. John, you are right. I will almost certainly have to say that. I have to say it every year. I'm glad you're getting ahead of the game here because you realize that, yes, we shouldn't be doing that. Patience is key, though, in head-to-head leagues. People have a lot less patience. It's probably why people play head-to-head leagues, because there is less patience required than in a roto league. But, yeah, we'll definitely dive into that once the games get going. Hopefully people aren't dropping their 12th round draft pick, though it does happen every year. Thanks for joining me today. We'll be back in tomorrow at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time here for Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by FantasyGuru.com. Have a great Monday. We'll see you on Tuesday.